Hello, I'm Robert, volunteer fact checker and helping you if you're scared of many things. And this is just to continue what I said before about how very slow the advance has been in Russia trying to move through Ukraine in the last 3 years, last 1,000 days. And if you go and look at Donetsk, which is where they're fighting, then they travelled from outskirts of Donetsk to there. That's about to outskirts of Donetsk, somewhere around there to there. About 50, have I got the right bit? They've travelled about 50 kilometres there anyway. But I just want to say that this bit here is completely fixed. This is the river Dnipro, and the blue area there, then Russia had control of that blue area until November 2022, when Ukraine won all that area back in just about a week or two. And so the Ukrainians have managed some very fast counter-offensives earlier in the war. But then they ran out, they didn't get support to keep going. They could have kept going and if they had a bit more support from the Allies. But they only got that support much later on, so they stopped at that point. So since then, this is the river Dnipro, and it goes all the way up there to that flooded area there. The area that used to be flooded, that used to be a reservoir, but it's now been drained. And then it's kind of marshy area now. Because when the Russians, they blew up the dam here, which then flooded the river all the way down to Kherson. They did that to prevent the counter-offensive in the spring of 2023. And then it's just been stuck like that ever since. And the Russians just can't seem to cross major rivers. So that's just to try and let that sink in, the entire Russian military, with their supersonic missiles, the ballistic missiles that they can fire for 2,000 kilometers, they've got 10 times as many military aircraft as Ukraine has, and Ukraine doesn't have these long-distance missiles even now. It's just developing. It's got its Flamingo cruise missile, which it's just got recently, and think how much more capability Russia should have on paper compared to the actual reality on the ground, which is they can't use all this military power that they on paper have. They can't use it to cross the river, to cross the Dnipro River, and they've been stuck behind that river for 1,000 days without moving at all. And this area here, it's got some rivers as well, not quite as wide as the Dnipro River, and those have really slowed down the Russian advance. They've hardly advanced at all along there. The only area, and along here there's not much of an advance either, the only area they've advanced is around Donetsk, where they've moved forward about 50 kilometers. And then look at this large area that the Ukraine took in August 2024, and they took over that entire area, and then it was a big fight for Russia to regain it. That's in actual Russian territory. And they took that area because they had intelligence that the Russians were about to go across the frontier into Ukraine. And then they also, the Russians have a couple of small areas in Kharkiv, but none of those go up to 50 kilometers in distance. So that gives you an idea. And remember, 50 kilometers is about the speed of a garden snail. So now I'll just go a little bit more and look at the Ukrainian advance. So if you look at this is the maximum of the Russia reached 25%. I think it actually went a little bit further than that in February, and then they came back, and then since then there was also through to November, and November was just November 22nd. That's November 11th already. The Ukrainians had liberated all that area of Kherson across the other side of the Dnipro River, making the Dnipro River the boundary there. And that's the low point for the Russians. Since then, they have very slowly, gradually advanced, and they've eventually managed to increase from 17.43% of the area of Ukraine that they occupied then, and they've reached 19.35%. So they've just short of 2% of the entire area of Ukraine that they have won in 1,000 days of fighting. And if you look at it from the Russians' point of view, it's even more striking. They have added 0.02% to the territory in 2025, and they've added 0.06% in total. So this, if you just show it, that's the area of Russia, and that's the area of Ukraine, and that's what they occupied at the beginning, and had added 0.74%. 100% here is the entire area of Russia. They had 0.74%. They'd added to it by Crimea and the eastern areas of Donbas, and then they so now by February 2022 they got 100.74. They that would be at the maximum extent, I think, and then they went down to 100. When you go to November 2022, it was 100.62%, and then they stayed at that, and then they increased all the way to 100.68%. So that's 0.06% that they've increased. You can look here that that's little, yes, February, and then the 100.89, 100.74, that was the maximum, and then they went all the way back down. This is a zoom in on the right hand side. So you've got 100% there, 100 point, they never quite reached 100 points, 101%, and then this is 99.5, they never went below 100%. So that's the Russian, and then I've just got some details about that. This is where they were originally. This is where they are now. They've got up to Pokrovsk. This is where they were in 2022, and Pokrovsk is up there somewhere. And this is the advance on the map from Donetsk to Pokrovsk. And just beyond, that's 45 kilometers. It'd be 50 kilometers if you go to the furthest point, to either side of Pokrovsk. And just to explain another thing I don't mention here, but Pokrovsk used to be a very important logistics hub for Ukraine. It used to supply all this area that is now Russian controlled. But it's no longer of any use to Ukraine. It might be of some use to Russia once they've taken it to supply these areas, but it's not going to help them to advance into Ukraine once they eventually take it, because Ukraine naturally has reconfigured its logistics so that they no longer depend on the roads that used to go from Pokrovsk like this, and they go around. So it's not going to make any difference to Russia to take Pokrovsk now, but very little difference, and they of course can go around easily on this side. So it's a very pointless kind of place to even take, and the Ukrainians are still holding it pretty well, and they will probably hold it all the way through to the end of this year. It's possible they might decide to retreat before then, but it's really about when Ukrainians decide to retreat and when they decide when or not, because it's not really important to them. But the main thing is just that it's a way to keep Russia focused there, so they're not advancing in other places. So that hopefully will help you. So yeah, that's a short video for that page. So I'll just stop that.